Hello there, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel and welcome back if you've been here before. So today I'm showing you how to build the kit of the week, and that is of course the Supermarine Spitfire F.Mk.XVIII in 1/48 scale from Airfix. Now if you've already got one, this is the video for you to show you how to put it together. If you are thinking of buying one, you might want to check out the companion video, which is the box opening. Or of course, you can catch the combo with the box opening, the build and bonus historical material. Look out for those on this channel. Now, if you like today's show, and I hope you do, please remember to like it by clicking your thumbs up symbol down there. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. You do that by clicking the small logo down in the bottom right corner. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps me enormously. Now, of course, if you want to offer a bit more concrete support for the channel, you can do that through the super thanks button down there. That also tells me which videos are liked most of all. And you can support me through Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee. Links to both of those are in the information box below. There's also a link there to the Airfix online store. If you click on that and then buy this or any other kits or supplies from Airfix, then at no extra cost to you, Airfix will donate some money to this channel. And of course, if you're an Airfix Club member, you will still get your 10% online discounts. Enough of all that, let's get on and show you how I made my Supermarine Spitfire F.Mk.XVIII in 1/48 scale from Airfix. Having given all the parts a light coat of grey primer, I can start painting some of the interior. Here, the cockpit walls. I use an IDF green as it's pretty close to British interior green. The rear part of each cockpit side has some aluminium on it. Then I'm going to add a thin black wash to help me bring out some extra detail. There are a few extra pieces to go on now, such as this trim wheel and throttle quadrant and the gear and flap selectors. These will all be painted black. Onto the seat, and you can see here that one of the mountings is broken on the sprue. There are quite a few delicate pieces in this set, so do be very careful. I can repair this later. The seat has a base and two sides. On this side there's also a lever. Not sure if this is a bomb release or a height adjustment. I'm sure someone will tell me. Inside the cockpit I've done some dry brushing and picked out some pipes in copper just for the look of it. I'm going to add some highlights to the structure too, a bit of the IDF green with some white added to it. Then a few spots of white on the trim wheel and a few other bits and pieces, and the cockpit walls are done and I'm very happy with them. Now the seat can sit on this wall. I'm guessing it's armour plate. The missing strut from earlier can now be glued back on as the wall gives it some support to sit in place. The seat support can be fixed to its frame. Then the seat assembly can go onto that. Then I can paint the seat itself in a colour called Cavalry Brown with a black leather back. Now for the instrument panel, I've decided to do it myself instead of using the decals. It's painted black first. Then I dry brush some white to pick out the bezels and the edges. Then a few tiny spots of white on the instrument faces, followed by some random spots of red and yellow. A final touch up with some white and the instrument panel is done, and convincing enough at this scale, I think. Now to the base of the cockpit, and the rudder pistons go through this mounting plate and the joystick goes in as well. Then our instrument panel goes onto its frame. Then the frame is attached to the port cockpit wall. The rudder assembly goes in next. It is a bit fiddly, but it does go in. I've left off the rudder pedals, by the way, as I'm going to be using the pilot figure. Then the other cockpit wall is added. It does take a bit of messing around to get all the parts aligned properly, but they do go in. Now I can pop in the seat frame, and that's followed by the rear bulkhead. Then the front bulkhead, or the engine firewall, goes in at the front end, and this intermediate frame pops in too. The cockpit assembly is done. Next I'll paint the pilot at 1/48. You can get a pretty good result. Do check out my tutorial video for more information. I'm going to have the cockpit side door open, so I need to cut this part out. There's a replacement with the interior detail supplied with the kit. You also need to cut off the top of the fin, as this mark has a larger rudder. Then the cockpit tub can go into one half of the fuselage, and the other half is joined to it. Glue it all together and tape it to set. There's this cover for the glycol tank to add as well. I've found this a slightly loose fit, so see if you can jiggle it around to make it sit better, and then leave it all to cure. Onto the wings now, and I'm fitting rockets to my Spitfire, so I need to drill 12 holes, each 0.9mm diameter, 6 in each half of the wing. These walls of the wheel bay can go in, followed by 2 cross members. Now there is a small ID light in the base of the wing section here. Secure it with a spot of white PVA, and remember to paint the back silver as it gives a better effect. Now I dry fitted the lower wing and found that the rear of the cockpit tub needed to be sanded down to allow it to fit flush, but that's no big deal, didn't take long to get right. Then the lower skin of the wing goes onto the fuselage, and I hold it in place with clamps to dry. Then the upper skins of the wings can be added, again held with clamps. I found the fit to be pretty good, with only a small amount of level filling needed. While that's drying, I'll assemble the horizontal stabilisers or tailplane. Each comes in 2 halves. They then slot into holes on the fin. Now I found they were reluctant to sit flat at first, but I could coax them flat by adding the elevator. There is a small post that goes in behind this, then the rudder can be fitted. The ailerons sit neatly in their places on the wings. Underneath the fuselage is the carburettor air intake, and then on the sides of the fuselage are blanking plates. These are the panels which probably would have photo reconnaissance cameras behind them. Maybe there's a new version to be released in the future. Then I'll add the fairings over the cylinder heads and the gun barrels on the leading edges. I'll let everything dry. In the meantime, I can paint the wheels with steel and then the tyres in rubber black. There are 2 faces for the other sides of the wheels in steel, and I'm also painting the tail wheel. The propeller will be supported by this axle, which allows it to turn on the finished kit if you like. This assembly goes together and goes into the front of the fuselage. The propeller itself comes as 3 pieces, a back plate which holds the 5-bladed propeller moulding, and then a spinner that goes on top. While that's drying, I'll take the moment to make my rockets while they're still on the sprue. Now onto the start of the paint job, and first of all I'm going to top up the grey primer where it's missing or has been rubbed off due to filling. That dry, I'll spray some blue for the tail stripe. I don't like using the decals, I don't find they sit very well on the root of the fin. Then white on the wing leading edges and the propeller tips before adding yellow. I really like a white undercoat to yellow to help it pop out. Then I'll mask the tail stripe and the wing edges and spray the underside of the model in medium sea grey. I've sprayed the radiators too. Now I can add the radiator faces painted in burnt iron. Then on top I can add the open radiator flaps. Then I mask off the underside and I can apply ocean grey to the top. Then when that's dry, I'll mask the camouflage pattern and paint the rest dark green. Then the fun bit, when it's all dry, the mask can come off and presto, a camouflage Spitfire. Allow it to fully dry and then add a coat of satin varnish. And once that's ready, I can start the decals. Fortunately, there are not too many stencils on this kit. If you're putting stores under the wings, do please make sure to do the serials now, as the pylons sit right across them. Now, one decal that's a proper pain is this fancy noseband. It takes a lot of time and quite a lot of decal setting fluid to get it anywhere near right. Eventually, I cut bits of the decal with a sharp knife where it goes over the head covers. When it had set very nearly right, or as well as I was going to get it, I did some touching up with a paintbrush to get rid of the worst of the scraggy lines. Anyway, eventually it's done, so I can put the radiators into place and start adding the little bits and pieces. The main gear legs just slot into place, as does the tail wheel. The tail wheel doors come as a single piece, which is very good. All of the gear fits very securely. Next I'll add the hubs to the outer faces of the wheels, then they can go onto the legs. They have slots to make sure the flat spot sits in the right place. Now the flat spot isn't that easy to find, so I just sand a little bit of the paint off so I know exactly where it is. Then the oleo struts go on the front of the legs, and the gear doors can go onto the inside faces of the legs. There are slots to make sure of the position. I'll paint the base of the gun sight with black, and while it's drying I'll fit the exhaust pipes, which I've painted in burnt iron. Then a spot of white PVA glue and the gun sight transparency can sit on its base, and when it's dry I'll finish the sides in black. Back to the propeller, and I've sprayed the spinner red, then masked off the front so I can paint the remainder in blue. That all needs to dry. There are a few things to add to the cockpit, like the door and these supports at the back of the headrest. Then I'll add the windshield, followed by the canopy. The rockets are painted light grey with mid-olive warheads. Then they can be put in place under the wings. Now you can see what I mean about the serial numbers. I've painted the leading edges of the propeller blades in aluminium, and when it's dry the rest is painted black. Now when this black is dry, I can use a bit of sandpaper, this is 600 grit, to just wear off the black to give the impression of eroded paint. Then the propeller can go on the nose, a quick go around touching up paint, and my Spitfire 18 is complete. I will say right away that this was a very enjoyable build. Most of the parts went together very easily, and when they didn't, like the wing to fuselage joint underneath, a bit of sanding sorted it out. The nose decal is a bit of an issue, but I got there in the end, and it's a lot easier than painting it. With a bit more time I'd do some weathering, but I still think it looks pretty smart as it is. Overall, I can happily recommend this kit as a very decent late model Spitfire. There we are then, the Spitfire F.Mk.XVIII. What an intriguing kit. Now, if you've enjoyed today's video, and I hope you have, please do remember to say so by clicking on the like button down there, the thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to my channel. You do that through clicking the logo in the bottom right corner over there. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me enormously. In any case, I do hope to see you again very soon on the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.